68% of the world's population will be living in urban areas by 2050. That's the prediction of the United Nations. This rapid urbanization comes with serious challenges. The demand for jobs, food, housing and education facilities will increase significantly, resulting in a growing need to optimize the use of available space in cities to find eco-friendly construction options. Hello and welcome to Eco India. I'm Sanuta Raghu. On today's show, we'll take a look at how we can make our cities sustainable in the face of these challenges. One of the go-to options across the world today when it comes to building fast and affordable homes is shipping containers. They've been used to build hostels, hotels, restaurants and even makeshift schools. But skeptics have sometimes questioned their feasibility as a sustainable building block. A designer duo in Pune seems to be paving the path to tackle this skepticism by providing a more eco-friendly alternative.
Not long ago, this daycare center urgently needed to extend the building and decided to try something different, opting to use discarded shipping containers. Now these steel boxes house a playroom for children, where they learn math, geography, and incidentally, also about how to live sustainably.
This building was ready. So we wanted to create something which doesn't disturb, because the kids are already coming. So if you go for a cement constructed building, that disturbs children. I was searching for something that can be quickly constructed. And if at all in future we want to change something, then that option is there because it's a mobile kind of construction.
Sonali Patkar and Dhara Kabari run the company that provided the containers. They founded Studio Alternatives in 2016 to design and build homes, workspaces, and just about anything that can be contained within 4 walls, all using discarded shipping containers.
The motivation that we have to work behind this is also a very big environmental factor, where we feel that nothing should go waste and we should be able to work with all kinds of material that we have around us. So as humans, we've created so many complex materials and that we ourselves don't know what to do with, and it is just ending in landfill.
Since 1956, shipping containers have been the standard way of forwarding freight. Built with corrosion-resistant steel, they are used for transporting cargo for about 12 years. After this period, they sit in junkyards waiting to be melted. But melting shipping containers uses 8,000 kilowatt-hour of energy. Repurposing them into buildings requires just 5% of that power. Following their guiding principle of creative reuse, the partners were keen to show what's possible. So they designed and built a home for Dara and her family, made entirely out of scrap and 3 discarded shipping containers.
So this entrance door is made with old windows and again glass which are reclaimed. And once you enter, this house is made with 320 feet containers converted into 2-bedroom house. This is a kitchen sink cum wash basin. So with the restrictions of keeping the plumbing in one container, we try to come up with the wash basin cum sink made out of old barrel, and water can be used either of the side.
The Blue House, built at a cost of 17 lakh rupees or 22,000 euros, has served as a show home to convince new buyers to opt for an attractive yet cost-effective and environmental-free living space. A shipping container can be up to 12 meters long. It needs to be treated thoroughly to eliminate exposure to toxic chemicals and also to prevent rust. Studio Alternatives procures its containers locally from a port in Mumbai, each one costing up to 100,000 rupees or 1,300 euros. A typical container home takes about 3 to 6 months to make and can subsequently be transported to any part of the world. It has a much lower carbon footprint than homes built with cement, for example, which is one of the biggest producers of carbon dioxide worldwide. But as yet, these homes made from discarded containers are still something of an experiment rather than a go-to housing solution.
This becomes mainstream in terms of acceptance, that people think that reuse is not because I can't afford it, but because it's making aesthetic and environmental sense. So till we achieve that, probably, we are still in that zone where we are trying it out.
The designers have built 16 container homes so far and saved close to 120 tons of steel from being melted. And perhaps, even more importantly, they are spreading the word of reutilization and eco-friendly constructions amongst the youngest in society.
Now, it's quite evident that architects around the world face the challenge to build fast and environmentally friendly, with more and more people choosing to move to cities. The German capital of Berlin is no exception to this. Architects here are now taking cue from a global movement that is championing the use of wood as the primary building block. Not only does it look beautiful, it also sequesters carbon and stores it for as long as the building stands.
This will soon be a classroom. It's being cut to size in a workshop and consists entirely of wood. In Germany, wooden buildings are growing in popularity. They can be put up much faster than concrete structures.
With conventional buildings made of concrete, you have to work quite differently. You need shuttering or molds. You have to work on site and adhere to the stripping times, which slows down the process enormously. We produce standardized modules here, which all have the same or similar dimensions and details, and so we're much faster.
In Germany, as elsewhere, more and more people are migrating to the city. The population of Berlin alone has risen 10% in the last decade. More schools are being built to cater for the new arrivals, mostly using wooden modules. The entire process takes 2 years, from putting the contract out to tender to the building's completion. That's record timing for Germany. This new sports hall is also made largely of wood. The price tag is a little higher than for a similar structure in concrete. But how safe is it, given the fire risk associated with wood?
That's a misconception, because we know that wood burns, but wood does meet fire safety standards. It would take a long time for the place to burn down. You'd have time to evacuate the building before it collapses. If it was made of steel, it would collapse a lot faster because of the intense heat.
Some apartment blocks in Germany are now also built of wood, although it isn't always obvious because of the plaster on the facade. Homes like these are still the exception, but demand is growing. Germany's leading architectural firm for wood construction says most of its customers choose wood because they're concerned about the environment.
The demand for wood as a building material is growing because the Fridays for Future movement is really having an effect. People want to know, what's the house made of? How much energy will it use? How sustainable is it? What materials do you use?
But Germany's forests are under pressure. Prolonged periods of drought and rising temperatures caused by climate change are having an effect on trees. Those that have been damaged can no longer be used for construction. Is this the right time to be felling more trees for building purposes?
We've just completed Germany's first wooden high-rise. The 10-story building needed nearly 1,500 cubic meters of wood, which has as much carbon stored in it as 500 cars emit in a year. And statistically, it will take just 6 minutes for that wood to grow in Germany's forests.
For now, at least, Germany has a plentiful supply of wood. So this latest building in Hamburg, for example, does not pose a problem. But if demand continues to grow, greater investment will be needed in the country's forests if wood is to remain a sustainable building material.
Living in cities comes with many comforts. Plenty of restaurants, street food and grocery stores offering a rich variety of food. But most of this food comes from the countryside, and the distance between the source of the food and where it's finally consumed is only increasing. If this trend continues, it might become necessary to rethink and change our eating habits and food production.
Would you eat animals that have more legs than your dining table? Or strawberries that have never seen the sun? Would you eat food that others throw away? The most innovative ideas to feed the surge in urban dwellers may not be perfect, but they are worth exploring. Like farming indoors. In big cities, food often comes from far away. Transporting it causes a huge amount of CO2 emissions. Behind this ramshackle building in Mumbai, an unusual kind of farm is growing what could be the food of the future, in stacks. Hydroponic farming uses foam and other materials as substrates for the plants. Nutrients are added to the water. The range of plants includes leafy greens like Swiss chard, lettuce and herbs.
In the same amount of space, you can grow almost 10 times the amount because you can grow vertically, and because of the closed loop recirculating water systems that are used to irrigate, you can use up to 90% less water. And there's the added advantage that you don't have to use pesticides when you're growing indoor.
The downside? Indoor farming, like here in the Netherlands where tomatoes are being grown, requires a lot of energy for artificial lighting. And growing something like corn or wheat would need even more power. So what about eating insects? Despite their loads of legs, their climate footprint is small. Insect farming only produces about 5% of the greenhouse gases per kilo that cattle or pig farming emit. They grow very fast, and they're rich in protein and minerals. About 25% of the world's population already eats insects regularly. The rest of us might find the idea repulsive, but could they be worth a try?
I think together with the hint of sour from the berries, it's a wonderful mixture. The nuts complement the flavor of the mealworms. It's a nice light snack with a really good portion of protein.
Of course, eating insects might not be for everyone. But what about sharing food? A stunning 1/3 of global food production goes to waste. In Germany's capital, Berlin, an app tells you where a store is about to throw away food that couldn't be sold. You can then go there and get it for a reduced price. It's good enough to eat, just not good enough to sell at full price. At an Indian wedding, there's lots of fun and lots of food. Volunteers calling themselves the Robin Hood Army collect leftovers from hosts who want to share. They also collect from restaurants throughout India. After a quality check, it's given away to people in need. For free.
There is a lot of things in this world which needs to change, and hunger is a huge thing, which sees no boundary, which it's just everywhere.
Feeding people in the world's growing cities is a big challenge. But what if the spirit of sharing is even bigger?
Now there's another problem with growing more and more food in the countryside. Traditional farmers are choosing to move towards cities in search for a better life, more money and a secure future. In northern Karnataka, countless agricultural towns have a severe water problem, and farming is becoming untenable. We met with one man who's torn between the need to earn money in the city and his desire to be a farmer.
At 7 a.m. every morning, Anjaneya sets out on the 2-hour trip into Bangalore. He jostles his way onto a local train to get to the city where he earns a second income. Anjaneya is heading in for a full day of work at a garment factory. Navigating the infamous Bangalore traffic, Anjaneya feels like he's living a double life and that his heart is elsewhere.
When I'm in the city, I count off every minute until the time I can go home. While I'm there, I suddenly think about the cow dung or which crops need watering. I may be in the city, but my real work and mind are out here on the farm.
Anjaneya owns 5 acres of land where he grows beans and a range of grains, but for a few years now he has only had the time for them in the evenings and on weekends. This land once belonged to his father and his father before him, but the produce from it doesn't cover his costs anymore.
When the rains were good, we didn't have to work for anyone else. We were kings. We were the ones giving work to others. Now the rain doesn't come regularly, and we have to fall at someone else's feet. If I get 50 rupees in return, we accept it. 100 rupees, we accept it. Whatever others give us, we have to take and go back again.
Millions of rural Indians like Anjaneya migrate to cities for work. They end up working as manual laborers, cleaners, or in other lowly paid and informal jobs. Competition is severe. In recent years, one major factor for the steep increase of internal migrants is climate change. This belt of Karnataka, for instance, is rain-fed, but as rainfall has become more unpredictable and the groundwater is drying up, farms have taken a harsh beating. But Anjaneya is one of the few farmers in Malur determined to fight the trend of abandoning farms for the city life because, he says, his children belong to this soil. To become more resilient in the face of climate change, Anjaneya has been trying farming techniques that are more efficient, even if they are new in the region. The first switch he made was from flooding his fields to drip irrigation.
If I hadn't started using drip irrigation, I would probably have no crops today. I also use only half the water I used to. In this situation where water is limited, it would be very hard to survive without this drip irrigation.
To take it one step further, he's invited a member of a local organization to take a look at his farm. Mairada has put together resources for farmers trying to cope with environmental changes, and its regional head Shiv Shankar is visiting Anjaneya to get him involved in their latest plans.
From this year, we are trying to adopt the smart irrigation, that is automated irrigation system, which will save the water as well as their farmers' time also. Where in smart irrigation, the farmers no need to be in farm. They can operate the system through the mobile app. Even if he sit outside the farm also, he can operate the irrigation system.
Anjaneya is paying a visit to one of the handful of farmers in the state who recently installed the automated technology that's managed through an app. Balaji's phone now monitors temperature, humidity and soil moisture while it irrigates his 6 patches of crops automatically or through the push of a button.
The root cause of everything here is water. People's circumstances and happiness are dependent on it. If we're able to save water and lakes fill up, crops will thrive and farmers won't have to depend on anyone. They'll be the ones feeding others. Farmers don't really concern themselves with anything else, ambition or amassing wealth. All a farmer really wants to do is farm.
When Anjaneya has saved up enough from his city job, he hopes to invest in the automated technology that could generate higher profits and run his farm more efficiently, while giving him time for his family. His climate-resilient farm in the making already inspires farmers around him to gear up for climate change and continue living a life of dignity on their ancestral lands.
Have you ever heard of counter-urbanization? To tell you the truth, it's a rare phenomenon of people migrating from urban to rural communities. They leave the amenities of the cities behind and go back to the grassroots. What do they lose and what do they gain? And is this kind of living really more sustainable? We visited a village full of former city dwellers.
Berlin is the largest city in Germany with a population of 3.6 million. 1.2 million cars squeeze their way through the hustle and bustle of the capital every day. But peace and quiet can be found a mere 3 hours away. No cars are allowed in eco-village Siebenlinden, and just 150 people live here. Founded 20 years ago, it's also a no-go area for mobile phones. Michael Würfel moved here from Hanover.
What bothered me the most was the traffic and all the advertising, plus the feeling of being hopelessly exposed to everything. Here we're showing how it's possible to live sustainably in Germany and have an enjoyable life. We live comfortably here, but we consume far less energy than people elsewhere.
To save energy, the building's walls are insulated with bales of straw. The villagers generate most of their own electricity, which is also used to supply hot water. But the village isn't only energy efficient. The residents also try to grow their own food. They don't use chemical pesticides, and they mainly work the land the old-fashioned way. Nadine Fischer is a gardener.
It's more ecological to work without machines, so it's the logical option. It's better for the soil. It means less soil compaction, less gasoline, less dirt and smell. In the spring and summer, you feel connected to all the growth and development, connected to life.
Most things are done manually in Siebenlinden. There's no machinery to till the fields, and they don't use farm animals either. The few alpacas here are kept as pets. The daily communal meal contains no meat because it's bad for the environment and because the vegans in the village insist. Around 70% of the vegetables eaten by the villagers are also grown by them, and they're aiming to further increase that figure. And instead of being thrown away, the leftovers are recycled as compost. The villagers are happy with a small range of foods covering their basic requirements. Chocolate, also stocked by the village store, is a luxury. Andreas Schubert has nothing against city supermarkets as such.
The
range could be smaller. I really notice the abundance of products. And then I have no idea what to buy or what's actually in each item.
The items stocked by the village store are all organically sourced and are therefore more expensive than their supermarket counterparts. But around the corner is a place where people give things away when they no longer need them, like clothes. Most residents have jobs in the village itself, as administrators, carpenters or gardeners, which means the money stays in Siebenlinden. But not everybody could afford to opt into this sustainable lifestyle, not even people in Germany. Joining the collective costs 12,000 euros. Building and maintaining an eco-village doesn't come cheap. So Sieben-Linden isn't quite an ecotopia. It's a compromise solution.
I hope today's episode has given you a sense of how people around the world are making sustainable choices when it comes to their living spaces, to their food and their lifestyle. And I hope you had many takeaways from this. We'll see you again next week. Until then, goodbye.